are emotions management, feeling and effectively expressing anger and other difficult emotions, as well as getting beyond personal stuck points or inner blocks for achieving emotional and physical wellness. Ms. Eisner holds a master's in public health and community health education, is a credentialed alcohol and substance abuse counselor, a visionary leadership coach, and an anger management professional. She specializes in the healthcare industry and also speaks and coaches individuals and groups in non-medical companies and for lay persons and groups. This morning, Susan will be presenting her workshop, Effectively Communicating Anger and Other Difficult Emotions. Please, please give Susan a warm welcome.
Good morning.
Is it on?
No.
How's I don't normally need a microphone, so we'll see how I do. I have a habit of yelling into the mic, so. And I just recently found out that my hearing is going, so, you know, maybe actually speaking even a little louder than I need to be. But good morning, everybody. I want to welcome you to this talk today on effectively communicating anger and other emotions, or the difficult emotions. So let me start out with the paperwork. Okay, you should have on each table, if you're in this section, and Bill has some, if you want to raise your hand, has some extras. If anybody who does not have handouts, you can raise your hand. There should be a packet. Okay, so what we have in that packet are a couple things that are stapled, and then there's a few loose pieces of paper. So the stapled packet has the top page of the techniques we're going to be doing in our session today. And then you have, I believe, the second page is a series of free audio-visual techniques that I've put together on YouTube or phone calls that you can call in on. And those are and some of those we're going to use today in our session. Okay? And then there's some information there on the services that I provide. There's some stuff on anger management. I'll tell you a little bit more what I do in just a second. Some information on the seminars and the coaching that I do. And then you'll have a couple of separate pages. One says testimonials. That should have initially been attached to the stapled one. But as I was creating these handouts sort of as the day went yesterday, didn't get that one done in time to get stapled in. So please do take that with you as well. There's an evaluation of my own that I'm going to ask if you could kindly fill out. I know it's a little extra paperwork before you leave, but if you could, it would be appreciated. And also, I'm running a special on an upcoming webinar, teleseminar, excuse me, and some coaching sessions that I'm going to be offering at a discount. And I'll have more information about that at the table, which I'll be outside this room after we're done. Okay, so please do stop by and visit there. And also on your tables, there should be in the middle somewhere an email sign-in sheet. Okay, it's a voluntary sheet, obviously, but I do like to keep in touch with my audience members. So I'm going to ask if you could, if you'd be willing, to fill that out, print very clearly, please. Pass it around the table. If your table doesn't have one, one of the ones next to you should. I send out a newsletter. It's for my newsletter. I don't send them out very often, so you will not in any way be bombarded with email from me. Okay, I know what it's like to get on those lists and get one every day or every week. They come out about once a month. You can always opt out of the list, and I have a new CD or another seminar in a community coming up somewhere. I'll send you some information. I also write a blog, so every time I put out a new post, I send out an email to people letting them know about the new blog post. So what I do is I have a background in public health, as was mentioned. I have a master's in public health. I'm a health educator. I'm also a substance abuse, drug and alcohol counselor in New York State. I'm also something called a visionary leadership coach, and a certified anger management professional. And I'm also something called a journey practitioner. The journey is a mind-body technique where you get to, and we're going to do some of the techniques in here today, little short ones. And again, you have that information, you have the instructions written out on your top page of your handout. So I just went to the marketing talk, okay? So one of the things is, what's your message? My message is, you need to feel in order to heal, okay? Big message, and I'm gonna keep running through that. She talked about emotions running the world. Well, our emotions run us as well. So it becomes very important from a wellness perspective, and that's my area of expertise. I do talks on stress management, on fatigue, on anger management, on communication skills, some other topics as well. And the ultimate goal here is for you to be able to take better care of yourself, and one of the ways to do that is to know how to communicate with people. And many of you have a little bit of struggle in that area, at least in some of your relationships, okay? And then there's always that one person in your life who pushes your buttons like no one else can, right? I have one of those myself. And I will tell you, I practice a lot of what I preach. I'm up here, standing here, talking about this stuff because I know something about it, all right? And what we're going to do today, now how do I work this remote? Where am I aiming it at?
Anywhere, you should be able to just the... all right, that's the laser.
The remote, that's the pointer.
It's the arrow. Right. Okay.
How did I get out of my slides?
All right, let's get you back in there.
How do you do it from this room? Okay. Slight little glitch there, thank you. Okay, so today's agenda is going to be teaching you a technique to help you get a little better at feeling your emotions, okay? This may sound like it's, this should be very simple. It's not very simple for a lot of people, all right? We're going to do a technique to help you get underneath to your more vulnerable emotions, emotions that might be underneath your anger. We're going to learn a little bit of a communication skills technique to help you express it a little bit better, all right? So I'd like to just throw this out here in the beginning at this point. For those of you, if there are any of you in the room who have a lot of difficulty expressing yourself, or if anger you think is really an issue for you, okay, or maybe it's an issue for somebody in your life that you know, it becomes important to acknowledge that, break through your own denial, and go seek some help for yourself. And one of the things that I do, as I mentioned, and I've gone to people myself for this sort of thing, is anger management coaching, stress management coaching, communication skills coaching. If things get to a point in your life where you need more than that, that's not working, consider finding a therapist. Consider going to a group of some sort, some type of a therapy group. A lot of times, addiction, psychological diagnoses, bipolar disorder, anxiety, depression, people have drinking problems or overeating problems, those kinds of issues can also kick up people's anger. They're also a way to cover your anger. If you're not really upset, gee, that piece of pie looks really good, right? So if you want to learn how to really communicate and feel your feelings, you need to stop doing the things that get in the way of you doing that. So for those of you who have, and we all have something, so if it's running the credit cards up, or it's, you know, drinking too much, or it's maybe you smoke cigarettes, maybe you use other drugs, legal, maybe not legal, whatever your choice may be. Busyness is another form of compulsion. People who live up in their heads a lot is another form of compulsive behavior. If you're constantly thinking, you're not feeling. Okay, so again, being able to get to the feelings becomes important. If you're resisting getting help for yourself, important question to ask, why? What is it that I don't really want to take a look at about me? Okay. So we have the Lockhorns. If there's no arguing with me, then why are you always arguing with me? Sound familiar? So anger, we're going to start there. It's a very normal emotion that people have. Now, I have a pet peeve with whoever created the 7 deadly sins, because anger is one of them. And I don't like to think of emotion as a sin, all right? It's what you do with your anger, it's what you do with your difficult feelings, but having them in itself is an important thing. Many people come from families where that was not allowed, or only, let's say, the parents are allowed to get angry, but not the children. I know a woman who cries every time she gets angry because she's not allowed to get angry, but she's got to express it in some way or other. So our anger lets us know that it's a warning signal. Something's wrong. I'm not being treated well. Or something that's triggering in me. I don't like what's going on here. You may have to protect yourself in some way. So we have this hardwired into our brains for a reason. It's part of being a human being. Okay? But what becomes important is to ask yourself again, what's under the anger? So why is this an important question? Why do we even think about this?
Because what's under the anger is the real deal.
Is the real deal. Absolutely. Okay. So what are some of the other feelings that might come and be under that anger that may actually occur first, but you sort of jump over it, you skip right over to the anger?
Pain.
Pain. Okay, emotional pain. Right? What else? Let's pick one from each table here, yes.
You know, my mother has Alzheimer's and dementia, and I went to an Alzheimer's support group, but I was talking to a member of my Toastmasters club who's a nurse, and I told her my mother was in rehab, I was crying a lot, and I just couldn't handle it, and she said to me, "You were grieving."
Yes.
And I said, "How can I be grieving? My mother's still alive." And she said, "You're grieving what was then and what is now." And then I went back to the support group to yell at the social worker and say, "Why don't you tell me I was grieving? Now I can understand." So grieving is basically what I've been feeling.
And grieving has a whole lot of different parts to it.
Not just dying.
Not, okay, so if you're grieving, and that's a very good point, you can be grieving the loss of anything. It could be a loss of a relationship. It could be a loss of you're getting older. You can't do quite what you used to be able to do. There's a lot of feelings that for any of you 50, 60-year-olds in the room here who know what that's like, right? The body just doesn't do what it used to do, okay? That can engender a lot of rage, all right? When you just can't quite function the way you could at one point. Grieving has a whole bunch of stages to it. It's got, and I never get them in the right order, it's got shock, bargaining, you know, if I'll do anything to bring it back, whatever you want, God, right? There's sadness, a lot of sadness, and there's anger is a part of grieving. You know, I'm angry I can't do this anymore. I'm sad that I've lost that person. Ultimately, that brings you to a state of acceptance, okay? Acceptance doesn't just come because you say, well, just it's how it is, I'm just going to accept it, especially if it's a difficult thing in your life. It's important to be able to feel the feelings. It's a very good point. Other feelings that are underneath the anger.
Fear.
Fear, very big one. Hand over here as well. Yep.
A sense of abandonment.
Abandonment, being left. And that goes with being alone, okay, feeling lonely. So we'll add more to the list. Terrified, sad, hurt is a big one. Disappointment is a big one. That's the one that a lot of people don't feel very much. Feeling like you're a failure. You feel stupid. How often do you go around and say to people, gee, I really feel like I failed? But deep down inside, that's what we're feeling, okay? Feeling judged, being put down, feeling unloved, feeling deprived. These are all deeper feelings that people often have. So how many of you have a little bit of a tougher time accessing those kinds of feelings? Okay. How many of you are really good at expressing your anger effectively? How many of you are not so good at expressing it effectively? How many of you don't express it at all? No, okay, we have a few of those. Okay, it's called stuffing it. And you know it comes out sideways somewhere else later at some point. Never goes away, or it goes into the body, and it comes out as pain, or it comes out as drinking too much, or it comes out as car accidents. It comes out as outbursts that come at the most inopportune moments, because the milk finally spilled over those years of your husband or wife forgot your birthday every year. Right? So how do we get to feel these feelings? What you need to do is to cultivate the habit of stillness and silence. How many of you have a little bit of a hard time sitting still for too long? Why? Why do you have a hard time, if I may ask? Yes?
Because I feel like I have more things to do, like I'm thinking too much.
Yes, too much to do, can't take the time out. One of the main reasons people don't like to sit still, but they're not very conscious of it at all, is their emotions come up when they sit still. So let's say you're having marital problems, you know, and boy, you're fighting a lot with your spouse, and then you go to work. You get to work, you get to be busy. You don't think about your marital problems. And then someone like me comes along and tells you to say, sit for 10 minutes and meditate quietly, right now. What's the first thing that's going to come up in your awareness? Your marital problems, medical problems, I was going to say. Well, maybe you have some of those too and you don't want to deal with those. So what do people do? They say, you know, meditation doesn't work for me. I can't do it. I have phone calls to make and charts to write in and things to do for my day, so I'm going to go do that. Because if you sit still and feel your feelings, you may have to make a decision about that marriage. And if you're not quite ready to do that, it's much easier to stay in denial. So being able to sit still and feel is important. You have a question?
I was going to say also for me, because I run so much, if I sit still too long, I'm going to fall asleep.
Okay, interesting point. This woman is saying that she runs a lot. Do you mean run physically? Busy. Sure, she's running around all day, and if she sits still, she may fall asleep. Okay, that may happen, and you have to kind of, I think, practice it over time, and you get better. But actually, I know someone very close to me who's like that, and that's falling asleep is another way to not feel your feelings. Okay, many ways we can get around feeling our emotions. Okay, so let's do a quick exercise right now called Feel Your Emotions. All right. But you know what? Actually, let me run through another slide or two before we get there. I'm very conscious of time here. We're going to do something called roll back the camera. Okay, and again, this is in your handout. All right. So what we are going to do is we're going to have you think of a scenario in your mind that you've had fairly recently, if you can. Something simple and something that you wouldn't mind sharing with somebody sitting at the table. Okay, so not something deeply personal. Unless you really want to vent it out and you don't care. Okay? So we're going to have you think of some scenario where you got upset, angry, or particularly strongly had a strong emotion about something. And we're going to have that be part of the visualization for you. All right? So, and again, something that's easy to explain to your neighbor, because we may have you, if we have enough time, break you up into pairs. So something simple like someone forgot my birthday, or they said something nasty to me, doesn't require a long story to explain it. Okay? So I need to ask you all in agreement to do this exercise. Okay? If for some reason you feel very uncomfortable, please just sit quietly. And if you're uncomfortable, ask yourself why. What's the resistance? Okay? Because here you're going to actually get to feel some of your feelings. So I can't force you to do this, but I strongly encourage you all to participate. So I'm going to have you sit up in your chair. Okay? If you can, get your back straight and both feet flat on the floor. How am I doing on time?
You're fine. It's 10:05.
Okay. So I'm going to have you just put your hands somewhere in your lap, just resting your hands. Again, if you can, feet flat on the floor so that you're not all crossed over and cutting off your circulation. Closing the eyes, okay? And like you to, so the first part of this will be a simple, just a little deep relaxation. So if you can breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth, otherwise as comfortably as you can. Nice, slow, deep breath in through the nose. Hold the breath for a couple of seconds, and then gently blow it all the way out through your mouth. Deep breath in through the nose. Slowly blowing all the way out through the mouth. Again, nice, slow, deep breath in. Hold the breath for a couple seconds till you feel a little tension in your chest. And then gently all the way out. As if you're blowing on a lit candle, but you're not blowing out the flame. And again, just a couple more at your own pace. And as you breathe out, you're going to let your body relax. You're going to let your muscles relax. Let those shoulders drop down. Let your jaw relax. And just let your body sink into the chair and your feet into the floor. So what I'd like you to do now is ask yourself, in this moment, what emotion are you feeling? It could be anything. See if you can just become conscious of how you're feeling in the moment. And emotion, again, is one word. Happy, sad, relaxed, tense, anxious, comfortable. Whatever the feeling is, see if you can identify it. And then I want you to feel it in every cell of your body. Just let the feeling expand throughout your whole being. And then down in the core of that emotion, there's another emotion. So I'd like you to ask yourself, what is the next emotion that's in there? What feeling comes up? I'll tell you what emotion I'm having right now. A little frustration, and we have a little competition. That's putting it nicely, actually. So, never mind me, let's get back to you. Again, staying with the activity, feeling whatever you're feeling in the moment. And then let yourself really fully experience the feeling. And then you're going to ask yourself the same question a third time. What feeling am I having right now? And these feelings can vary from one second to the next. They can be very opposite, very different. Okay? Or they can just be a deeper version of the one you just had. Whatever it is fine. Just feel the emotion. Okay, so now what I want you to do is take another couple deep breaths, and when you're ready, just open your eyes. And if there's somebody next to you who has fallen asleep, perhaps you want to tap them and wake them up. Okay, just out of curiosity, how many of you were able to feel at least one clear emotion in that exercise? Okay, how many of you could feel more than one? Okay, how many of you were struggling to feel or to be able to identify the feelings? Anybody? Nobody? Okay, Lois. Would you be willing to share why, what happened, what was going on?
Because there are lots of things, so I need to choose one of them.
To just sit quietly and feel the emotions, you mean?
Right, I was paying attention to you, now I get to talk to listen to me. It's like, oh, okay, what's going on now?
Okay, so sometimes it's a little tough to stay focused on one thing at a time. Okay, anyone else have a little trouble? Yes?
I didn't have trouble, but it was like 3 different levels.
There's too many levels.
It was, well, the first one was, I was curious about this, and I was a little skeptical.
Okay.
After that, I started to enjoy it.
Oh, there you go.
3 levels.
Okay, this is the kind of thing that really takes a lot of practice. And I can tell you, when any situation comes up, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, if you step back, you take a breath, take a deep breath or two, and just say, gee, how am I feeling right now? Okay, it's important, but you have to put in your brain to remember to do that. And you'd be surprised a lot of times at what you may be feeling. I was speaking to one of the other speakers before I came in here, and I said, you know, I'm feeling a little nervous. And he said, that's good. You don't want to walk in feeling like, I got this one aced, you know? I speak all the time, but this is a new venue for me, so I was conscious of feeling that. So what did I do? I took a couple of deep breaths, I said a little prayer, and I said, you know, I hope the right words come out of my mouth. I think I'll be fine. So far, I think I'm doing okay. But I think it's important. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, so we're gonna, let's see. Okay, before we do the next exercise, I'm gonna run through a couple more slides. So, some general points about expressing yourself overall and expressing difficult emotions. One of them is to talk about issues as they come up and don't pile them up. All right, a lot harder to deal with them later. And as I mentioned before, try not to do things that will stuff the feelings down. Rather, do things that will get them out, like sit quietly and breathing, thinking about it, talking about it with a friend, journaling, write your feelings down, take a walk, vent to somebody, okay? Cry, get the emotion out. Maybe not necessarily with the person you're having the feelings with or about, but it's important to be able to not pretend like this isn't really happening, all right, or whatever the situation may be. So we have the lock-ons back. Don't knock my nagging, Leroy. It's the glue holding our marriage together. So if you have a pattern in certain relationships, and that's their pattern, right? Some people have fighting is what holds their relationships together with their partner, for example. Okay, there's lots of deep psychological stuff under all that. Yes. Yes.
So if you do the same exercise at 5 o'clock, the heart will say, couldn't concentrate.
Okay, so the question is, or the comment is, doing that exercise we just did at various times a day in the morning, you may not have a whole lot going on yet when you're just arising, so it might be easier to feel later at 5 o'clock after your crazy day. You might be having a lot more emotion. That's okay, and that's true. You can do it at whenever you want. If you're going to do actual sitting down and deep breathing, just the first part, without even asking yourself what you're feeling, but just taking some deep breaths during the day. If you're anybody here into any kind of meditation? Okay, so we do have a few people. So when you do, it can make a difference. Early in the day is always a good time to start your day, even if you're driving to work, in the car, eyes open, yes? Take some deep breaths as you're driving. Okay, good time to do that. Before you're going to give a Toastmasters speech, good time, do some deep breathing, right? Later during the evening, good time before dinner. Why? Won't shovel in the food as much, okay? Before any meal, I say the Serenity Prayer before I eat any meal, just to calm me down so I don't inhale my food, okay? Seems to work pretty well for me. So, anyway. You need to look at your patterns in your relationships and how you communicate. And this is about you, not your partners, not your friends or your coworkers. How do you communicate? And the teleseminar that I mentioned earlier that I'm going to be doing, if you'd be interested in, it's going to be all about that. So we're looking at what is your communication style, what works about it, and what doesn't work about it, and what might you want to change about it. So it's important to take personal responsibility for the conflicts that you have, the conflicts that you get into with people. Everybody is always playing a role in a conflict. Now, there are a lot of people in the world who like to blame everyone else. You ever hear the saying, when you're pointing one finger out at someone else, there are 3 pointing back at you? Okay? It's always important, even if you're right that the other person is quote-unquote wrong, it's still important to look at what you are doing that's contributing to the issue Even if all it is your tone of voice. Maybe the point you're making is valid and you're sticking by it. It's your story and you're sticking to it. But your delivery could use a little help. Okay? So, looking at your own part of the issue. The other part about conflict is that everyone has a valid point. So whatever discussion you're having with somebody, try to really hear the other person. Okay? Most of the time, both of you have something significant to say. And here we have the Lockhorns one more time. Now they're at the marriage counselor. And Loretta, he says, is so good at pointing out faults, she should have been a seismologist. So how do we focus on ourselves in our communication? We use I statements. Now people will say, oh, then you're very conceited. You're talking about yourself all the time. Okay? Absolutely not the case. What is an I statement? An I statement is a phrase that starts with the word I. Okay? And it's followed by need, like, feel, want, those sorts of things. So I feel angry. I feel happy. I need you to remember my birthday. I'd like to communicate with you about something that's been on my mind. As opposed to, you keep forgetting my birthday, you don't know what you're talking about, you don't know how to talk to people. Why is the word I so important? Because it creates more vulnerability, and people are less likely to argue with you when you're talking about I versus pointing that finger at them. This is not a natural way for a lot of people to talk. So it takes some practice. Okay? Another thing that's important to keep in mind is, again, switching out the word I for you. When you're talking about the word I and yourself, you're talking about how you're feeling about maybe what somebody else is doing, but you're not explaining to them what they're doing. So, for example, I'm not being heard versus you're not listening to me. Okay? I feel unappreciated versus you never say thank you. I'm concerned about problems with your work versus you're incompetent. Do you get the... That wasn't meant to be funny, but I guess it came out. The other thing, I feel angry versus you make me angry. We don't really make other people feel what they feel unless we're deliberately trying to push their buttons. You generally feel what you feel because of your history. I may say, if I'm a supervisor, I may say to 3 different employees, I need to talk to you about something. Can you please come to my office in 15 minutes? One person may react with, oh my God, I'm going to get fired, right? The other one might say, who is she to tell me anything, right? And the third person might say, oh, okay, whatever, I'm open, right? So your emotion has a lot to do with your own personality and experiences you've had in life. So we don't really make people feel anything. Other things, why can't you ever get anything right? What's wrong with you? You're an idiot. You know, those kinds of statements, we all make them, right? But generally they don't work overly well in our communication. So, here's the model. Okay, this is also on your paper, first page on the bottom. How are we doing with time here? All right, so, the simple version of it is, when you, I feel, I need. Okay, the complicated version is, desk. Describe the behavior. So when you forget my birthday, okay, explain how I feel or what the impact is. I feel hurt. Okay, the impact is I don't really want to see you that evening. I feel really bad. Okay, state what you would like. So I could do a couple of things. I might say, would you be willing to tell me why you forgot? Okay, maybe there's a very legitimate reason. Right? Or I might say, can you tell me, can you change your behavior? Can we find some way to work this out so that you don't forget my birthday? You might even say to the person, can you tell me how you feel about what I'm saying? Okay, so there are various things, but the general point is you express the person's behavior. Maybe they said something or they did something. So when you did or said, or when you do or say that, whatever, okay, I feel, you pick a 1-word or 2-word emotion, and you may add in, and the impact on me is, okay, and then you say, this is what I really need for you to do instead, or could you, all right? Now, if you keep having this conversation and that birthday keeps getting forgotten every year, then you may need to set a consequence. Okay? But you try to go that route only if necessary. You also have to remember you can ask people for what you want, doesn't mean you're going to get it. So that tells you a lot right there. If you consistently ask for things in certain relationships and you keep not getting the need met, you may start to question the relationship. Okay? What can I live with? What's a deal breaker and what's not? Right? Okay. So I'll use an example. Can I have I was going to say victim. How about a volunteer? Okay, come up. And this young woman, you can come up. So we'll do a little quick role play here. So let's have you be, I don't know if I should do a role reversal. I'm going to do traditional roles here. You be the secretary, okay? You want to be the secretary? He's going to be the secretary. You're going to be his boss, okay? What's your name?
Wayne.
Wayne?
Vidya.
Vidya. Okay. Vidya and Wayne. So, you, as the secretary, keep coming in late in the morning. 10, 15 minutes. The office is not running well, okay? You can't get the office functioning because he's not around. You get stuck answering the phone. You're frustrated, whatever else you're feeling. Okay, so I'd like you to use this model so when I feel the impact is, and then we'll continue on. So I'm going to just step over here and go ahead. And you might want to start it out with a opening statement of some sort, like, got a minute, I need to talk to you about something. Okay. And you know what? Why don't we give you, people can hear you?
I just got in. They told me you wanted to see me.
Oh, cool. Wayne, do you have a couple minutes to talk?
Sure.
Hey, do you want a microphone?
No, we can hear.
Okay. Just yell out so that they can hear.
So, listen, Wayne. When you come in 10 to 15 minutes late,
Can you hear over there?
No.
I'm frustrated.
So when you come in 10 to 15 minutes late, it is a bit of a problem for me because I am answering the phones and I'm not really tending to what I should be doing. I feel very frustrated about this. I'd like to understand what's going on. What's causing you to come 10 to 15 minutes late to work?
Okay, give him the mic.
My wife and I have been having some problems with the daycare arrangements, and if she doesn't show up at work on time, she'll get fired, so I've been coming in a few minutes late. But I do stay 15 or 20 minutes late at the end of the day. I never shortchange the job. I put in a full day.
What do you need? He's going to make that Wow. You need to either set a firm boundary or see if you can live without it.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry that there appears to be a problem with the daycare situation. Did you know that the company has a daycare center right here? So you don't have to bring your kids ahead of time and still be at work at 9 o'clock. Do you want to consider that?
I wasn't aware of that, and it's something I will discuss with my wife, and I really do feel that the situation, either way, will probably be resolved within another 2 weeks. So if you can live with it for another 2 weeks, I don't think it will be a problem after that, if that's okay with you.
Okay, last comment.
Okay.
We have to keep the time in consideration here. So you got the basic point. So this is a general model when you, now she could have also said to him, I appreciate your issue here, but we can't, I need you have to be here. So let's see, we'll give you 2 weeks to try to work it out, and if that doesn't work, then blah, blah, blah will happen, okay? All right, so we're going to do another exercise. Okay, so we're going to have you close your eyes again, very quickly. Okay. So let's have you take a nice slow deep breath in. Okay. And a couple more deep breaths, just allowing yourself to relax as you did before. And I want you to bring to mind the scene of this. I had asked you earlier to think of a situation where you've had a strong response emotionally to it recently. Okay? So just put that scene in your mind up on like an empty movie screen. Replay it in your mind. See how you responded to it. Feel the feelings that you were having. And feel the strongest of the feelings that came up initially. So maybe it was anger, okay, whatever it was. And then I want you to roll back the camera in your mind to the moments right before you had that strong emotional reaction. And see if you can identify a couple of more vulnerable feelings that were also in that scene. And see if you can feel those feelings. So if maybe there was some hurt under that anger, or even if hurt was the first feeling, maybe you realize anger is underneath that. Okay, maybe you never touched the anger. Disappointment, fear, powerlessness, helplessness. It's another very common feeling that people have that they're not conscious of a lot of the time. So just stay with the feeling, and then in your mind's eye, I want you to picture a moment where you can take that person and express to them, using this model, what you were feeling, and assume in your imagery that they're receptive to hearing what you have to say. So just simply say to them, when you did or said whatever, this is how I felt, and what I really need from you in the future is, or what I'd really like, and in this case, just have it be a simple behavior change as opposed to questioning why. You might picture them responding. See if in your mind you can make it a positive response so that you can negotiate this one quickly. And then allow the scene to go blank and take another couple breaths. And when you're done, you can open your eyes. Okay, so what I'd like you to do now is turn to somebody sitting next to you, see if you can find a partner. Okay, we may not have time to do it both ways, but let's see if we can. Okay, now listen up for the instructions, please. Because we only have about 8 minutes left, we need to do this quickly, so please listen to the instructions and just keep this real simple. Okay, the example up in front of the room was a little more complicated than I want you to get, simply for the reason of time. That's all. Okay, otherwise, and then you can go out and practice this in more detail. So pick whoever one of you is going to go first. Okay, and what I want you to do is to give a very quick explanation to the person who's going to be doing the listening, who's going to be role-playing the person who you're having a problem with, and just simply tell them what they did that upset you. All right, and then so they have some idea, and then I want you to use the model. When you blah, 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 this is how I felt, this was the impact on me. What I would really like is if you could change your behavior by doing blah, blah, blah. Does that work for you? and see if you can get a positive response and come to resolution. So you're going to take about 2 minutes to do that exercise, okay? Go. Take another 20 seconds. Okay, another 5 seconds and wrap it up. Okay, time out. Okay, I'd like you to now switch roles, okay? Now the person who is listening is going to do the speaking. Go. Take another 20 seconds. Okay. 2 seconds and wrap it up. Okay, I'm going to call timeout, everybody, please. Okay, how many of you... Shh. Oh, what? How many of you were able to do this? Okay. It's important, again, this kind of conversation often feels awkward, but it's important to start to practice it. And again, it doesn't have to be exactly in the right order or whatever, but those basic concepts should be in there. We have about a minute left. I'm just going to run through a couple extra slides just to make a few last points. Again, a couple of additional catchphrases. Help me understand this from your point of view. Does that work for you? Am I doing something that's upsetting to you? Can you tell me what it is? How can I do this differently so that you'll feel better? These are all statements that mean, gee, I'm willing to look at myself and change my behavior, okay? Reflective listening, now we didn't do any of that today, is when you feedback. So when somebody says to you, gee, John, I'm really upset that you forget my birthday, I feel really terrible, I don't want to hang out with you that night. So what I hear you saying, Mary, is this is really upsetting to you. You really feel terrible, and it really has a big impact on your day, right? Feeding back what you're hearing from them. Again, it gives the person the sense that you're really listening. All I said was I was wrong. The words "I'm sorry" are very foreign to some people. And I think we have about, so when it's coming up, that anger, take a few deep breaths before you say something. Okay, if you need to take a time out, walk away for a minute, come back, put it back together after that. And you're learning to really respond versus react. So I want to thank you all very much. I'm going to ask you if you have my evaluation, if you can take another quick minute to fill it out. And if you have not yet put your name on that email sign-in sheet on your tables, and if you don't have one on your table, there's another one on one of these other tables, to please put that information if you'd like to. And thank you, I'll be at my table afterwards. Thank you very much.
While you're filling that out, on behalf of Toastmasters 46, I present this certificate of appreciation to you, Susan, for presenting the workshop and sharing your knowledge with us. Does everybody agree?
I have extra handouts if anybody didn't get them, by the way. So you
Raise your hand. Raise your hand.
Anybody not have them?
You can take the...
The whole package.
So while you're still filling out your forms, this is an announcement for presidents, VPs of education, and anyone holding proxies. Area and division governor and all other district executive committee members are reminded to the credentials desk. That's where you should go, and that's across from Saloon A and B, to pick up your ballots for the business meeting, which starts at 2:30 p.m. Please complete your workshop evaluations and then hand them to me or to the timer. Both of us are billed, so you won't mess that up on your way out. And you may also leave in the boxes located in the back room and proceed then to our next event, which will be the Parade of Banners. Thank you for attending and participating.
Thank you.